Do you think one mind is better than many? Neither do we. A University of Chicago Booth School of Business MBA is for curious and collaborative people who value different perspectives and ideas. Chicago Booth takes pride in empowering and being empowered by women of diverse backgrounds. We believe that fostering an inclusive community creates an environment of analytical, open minded inquiry and produces knowledge with enduring impact. Learn more today at chicagobooth.edu/elevate. Welcome to the Ellevate podcast, conversations with women changing the face of business. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Ellevate podcast, History Makers. So excited for today's interview. This one has been a long time coming, so I'm really excited. We finally got a chance to connect and sit down. Today, I am talking with Mai Salama, who is the first Arab woman on Campaign's 40 over 40 list. We talk about her winding career journey because she's been involved in so many different industries. So cool. We talk about taking risks and having courage. We talk about how sometimes women don't want to self-promote or, stand up, and how her friend encouraged her to apply for this award. Such a great interview. Let's go ahead and get to it now. Hi, Mai.
Hi, Megan. How are you? I'm so happy to be here today. Thank you so much for hosting me.
So usually the first big question I ask, I know it's kind of big, feel free to answer it however you like, is how did you get to where you are today?
Okay, it is a big question. Big in terms of it's a long story. Do you have time?
Oh, yes, we have time.
All right. So honestly, Megan, I've always been more eager since I was a kid to work. I always felt like I would give more in a job than education. Where I come from in Egypt, education is more important than anything else. You simply can't have a proper career or live the proper life or carry in your family's footsteps or all of that unless you have the right education. And so I was I know what I'm going to say is going to sound terrible, but I was a horrible student and I was a spoiled brat at school. And in that sense, I would not study and I would get away with it. And I would pass and I would make it to the next year and the next year and the next year. And it's a sad story, happy for me. But anyways, the reason being is the schooling system here is based on um, reading and in Arabic we call it memorizing. So it's more about studying and writing what you study and not doing project. Not like the American system really. The American system is more about projects. And I always felt as a kid that I don't know even till today if I'm in an interview or something I cannot pre write, or even if I get on stage I cannot memorize what I'm going to say. I just need to, understand it, digest it, and then I'll say it in my own way. So it was always very hard for me as a student, and I loved more to do things, to work. And it was weird because also in our culture, right now it's different, but when I was a kid, in summer they would ship us to the North Coast where the beaches are and where families go to, enjoy the beach. And it wasn't a normal thing for us to work in summer. Kids, summer jobs weren't a thing. And I started my first summer job in ninth grade, and my parents thought I was crazy. They kept telling me, why? Why would you want to do this? You can go to the beach, you can have fun, we'll provide for you. And I'd be like, but I want to work. And they would be like, but why? And they never really understood. And it was always the fight that we would both compromise, give me 1 month of a summer job, and then I'll come to the beach. And so it started from there. It started from school. I did summer jobs. And then when I went to university, I decided I'm really not made for education. I'm going to get them the degree they want, but I'm also going to work because I was always driven by the fact that I wanted to graduate from uni and be ahead of anybody who was my age. So I started full-time jobs first year of college. And it's also it was not a normal practice back then. Right now it is to have summer jobs and to work during uni. So I started very early on, and I don't think I've stopped ever since. And if I may build on that, starting early also gave me the chance to try a few things. So I worked in publishing. I worked as a dubbing director. I worked in communication. I tried several things, and then I decided, no, I want this, and I want to continue in this.
I love that. And before we get into your journey in marketing, because I always love to, as a fellow marketer, I love to talk about marketing with people. I want to ask because I saw on your LinkedIn it mentioned that you worked in dubbing, and I am fascinated by dubbing. And so, do you want to give a little bit of info about what dubbing is in case people don't know what that is, but also just like what was your experience like in that?
It was amazing. I was actually in university during my dubbing time. And back then, Disney had started hiring studios in Egypt to dub the cartoons in Arabic. And I actually worked on Darkwing Duck. I worked on Winnie the Pooh and DuckTales, the new series. And I think to this day, it was one of my favorite jobs. Dubbing is where you basically, the process is you get the cartoon, you get the script, you translate the script, and then you confirm the script with basically Disney, and then it comes back and you hire the voice actors. And that's when I came in. I would direct the voice actors to mimicking Donald, anybody basically. And the best part about being a dubbing director, I think, was bringing out the emotions throughout the voice. Just making sure this person can really show me anger or joy or this or that through their voice, and it would actually resonate and mimic with the cartoon as perfect as it is coming from Disney. My boss back then was a French guy. His name was Yves, and he was assigned by Disney to come and establish the studio in Cairo. And I was lucky enough to stumble upon this job. And I think luck plus hard work has been a big part of my story, because I've been very verbal about how I want to work, I want to work, I want to work. So that most of my jobs in the early days were through friends. We heard there's an opening somewhere and you like to work. Would you like to try that? And I would go. So this was referred to me by a friend and I applied, and then she told me about it. I applied and I got the job. I trained for a bit and then I became a dubbing director. And the idea of just bringing the cartoon to life in Arabic was I think magical, and I loved it. But then Eve had to got an assignment with DreamWorks, and so he left Cairo, and so I decided to venture into a new area.
That is so cool. As a kid, I loved anime, so the practice of dubbing of taking something that is created in one country and bringing it to life in another language has always been fascinating to me.
To me as well, honestly. And I think I've been very lucky getting that chance. Actually, just yesterday, I was in a recording studio session for a case. We're helping someone with submission for awards and stuff. So I took on the hat of the of the voice director. And it took
Yeah.
back 20 years. And I started laughing when I hung. I was like, I feel like I'm back in media concepts. And it was so nice just speaking to the talent, telling him where I wanted to push, where I wanted to be angry, where I wanted to be happy. And it was just amazing.
Yes, yes, 100%. And I think people don't realize how much directing goes on in there. You're like, "Oh no, trust me, it's very important."
It is. It is. It is. It is massive. It is important. I think every job is very hard, and every job is beautiful, and everyone knows the hardship of their jobs because they do it. So any job might look easy on the surface, but really it takes a lot to do any job. So yeah, dubbing directing is hard, but it's magical. I would always use that word.
Yeah. I love that. So, let's move into now you're more in the marketing, the creative field. I mean, you've always been in creative, but I love to ask, fellow people that work in marketing, in innovation, what was it about marketing that stood out to you?
It's the fact that you can actually convince someone with something when you haven't even met them. It's the fact that, be it a chocolate or an NGO or a toy for a kid or a medicine, you're actually taking a message and spreading it out to the world. It always funny story. As a kid, I used to record commercials, and I only noticed that when I was 6 years in the field, that I've loved the idea of communication and marketing and giving out messages from day one. And it's just taking a bottle of shampoo, and when someone uses this shampoo and they feel like, I feel better about myself just because my hair feels good today. You being a part of that. It's as simple as that. Look at Dove. It is a product about what? Beauty, but it stands for beauty within. Marketing can be much more than just an ad. It can be life changing. And that's what I've always loved about it.
That is so interesting that you mentioned that you used to record commercials because I'm thinking back now and I never connected the two. But like I used to record movie trailers all the time, and now I'll even watch like nostalgic commercials. Like I'll pull up a YouTube video of like 10 commercials you forgot ran while you were a kid. And I'm like, oh my God, I used to think about this every day. And I'm like, I wonder if that led me to marketing.
I genuinely believe it did.
Yeah. So let's move into, I mentioned you on the podcast at first, and now you're on here for being the first Arab woman on Campaign's 40 over 40 list. How did you find out that you were going to be on the list? Did you submit for it? Or, what was that process like?
I think the 40 over 40 has been a work in progress forever. If I may take a moment to tell you how my day one in advertising, I walk into the meeting room and I see a VHS of something called Clio Awards. And you know what? I'm a newbie. It's my day one. I don't know what that is. So I play it and I see these glamorous awards and I'm like, this looks nice. One day I'm going to go to this. And then back then, there wasn't really much of Google around. And uh, I was telling you earlier, I was horrible in education. But when it comes to work, I'm such a nerd. Okay. So I would research, I would ask around, I would tell my friends, whenever I travel or family members who live abroad, and whenever I travel, I'd look for any publications and magazines related to the industry of marketing and communication. And I would subscribe to them and they would come to me in the mail. And for the longest time, I've wanted to be part of any ranking anywhere because I always feel like Egypt is alienated and it just, why would I get the recognition? Why would I be recognized? Why would anyone notice it? So I never really opted to do anything. And then I will tell you the story of Can Lions in a bit, but I'll stick to the 40 over 40 for now. And then I'll call it few years in parentheses, some years down the line, I decided I won the Women in Marketing Award the year before. So it was last year. I won the Women in Marketing. And I was also the first Arab and Egyptian woman to win that award for Lifetime Achievement in Marketing. And when I won this award, it gave me a little bit of courage to apply for the 40 over 40. And I have to thank a friend of mine, Gabriella, because she's the one who pushed me to apply for the Women in Marketing Award. I never thought I'd win it, and I won it, and I flew to London to get the award. And so when they opened up the submissions for the 40 over 40, I was like, you know what? It doesn't hurt to try. And I submitted. And I really had my doubts. I genuinely did not think they would recognize me. And so, funny story, I had an alarm on my calendar on the day of the announcements. And so in the morning it rings, winners will be announced today in 40 over 40. And I open up my email and I get nothing. So I'm like, yeah, so I didn't win. Expected. 2 hours later, I receive the newsletter saying winners announced. So I open up the email and I'm scrolling down and I see my name. And I think to myself, why do they have the people who lost on the website? And so I scroll back up and I see, and it says winners list. I scroll back down and I find myself. So I start screaming and jumping in the office. And that was it. And I honestly did not think I would win it. And I hold it and carry it with pride. And there's a thing, I'm sorry, but I think women are always too shy or too self-conscious to say, yes, I'm happy about this achievement. We're always very apologetic on that end. And when it comes to this award, every time someone says congrats, I would have the biggest smile on my face and say, you know what? I am proud and I am vocal about it. So
And you earned it.
thank you.
Yes. So, and one thing I love that you mentioned is that it was your friend who encouraged you, because I think what you said is so important about, like, so many women are so nervous to like put themselves out there and kind of brag about themselves, but that, it was a friend of yours who was like, do it.
Yes. She pushed me to do it. And this year I'm actually judging in the Women in Marketing Awards. And so it feels like she put me on a path for something I never thought I'd even be party to.
I love that. Women supporting women is amazing. So,
Sorry to interrupt, but your podcast is doing that. You're shedding
oh,
light on women and you're supporting women. So thank you for that.
thank you. Yeah, sometimes I just feel like it's just, yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. But
Yeah.
it's genuine and
Um,
real. I'm not just saying that.
yeah, it's one of those things, I guess, where, again, we don't give ourselves enough credit.
Thank you. See how you felt when I said it?
Yeah, where I was literally like, oh, okay, thank you. Yes. So one thing I'd love to ask our international guests, where I'm based out of the United States, but especially ones that have a lot of interactions with different industries and different worlds, is like, what is the business scene like, the business world like, in Egypt, in, so far around the country? What might people be surprised by, and what might, people be like, oh yeah, that's just like it.
Okay. So, one surprise, the advertising scene is led by women.
Oh,
Yeah. And the marketing scene has a lot of female stars. Though I think the problem is we shy away from the limelight. So you see a lot of men in the limelight. And actually, a male friend of mine made me realize that. So we have a conference, it's called the Creative Summit, and it's become the biggest body for the creative economy in the Middle East. And so we host with it festivals, we do mentorship programs, we do a lot of things. And we have our annual festival coming up next month. I'd love for you to check it out. Um,
yeah.
and so my friend, he was coming to speak in the festival. He's like, May, I need you to shed more light on women. And I said, look, if I shed light on more women, it would all be women. I am pro women. And then he said, that's not what I mean. I mean, in advertising, you need to force more women to be on stage. They appear in other businesses, but they run the show in advertising. And I was like, you know what? You're right. You have the group CEO of MENA companies, like McCann Egypt, sorry, for example, is run by the group. All the companies under McCann is run by a very strong and powerful woman. And you will find amazing women in amazing posts in advertising and marketing. So that's surprise one. The other thing that I'm actually truly proud of is we don't have variance and we don't have variances in salaries. So men get paid like men, sometimes more. So it depends on the bracket, what you're applying for. It depends on your negotiation skills, unfortunately. But there's no set rule that men get paid more than women. Actually, sometimes women do get paid more.
I love that. And I think one of the interesting things you say is, I was so surprised when you said advertising is run by women, because it's like so much advertising is for women, but it's almost all run by men. And that is a gap that we desperately need to close. So I love that, like, you guys are like, oh no, it's the women running the scene over here.
They don't do advertising for women a lot here, but it's run by women. It's kind of the opposite.
Why can't anybody ever have a balance?
Why would life have a balance?
I know, right? Oh, life is too random and crazy.
Yes.
Yeah. So, one thing that I want to talk about before we get to the final question is you've had, a lot of leaps of faith in your career.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for somebody at home who might be thinking about taking a leap of faith either into a new career or to put themselves out there, to kind of have that courage?
Yes, and I think I will touch on the Canline story in that bit. I think anybody starting out. Okay, so first of all, entrepreneurship, if you don't mind me saying the word, sucks. So if you're gonna cut this out, I can say it differently.
No, you're welcome to say sucks.
Okay, great. So, for starters, entrepreneurship sucks. It's not the glory that everybody talks about. And to be very honest, I come from the school where I believe being a great employee is much more rewarding than being an entrepreneur. But anyways, and I think I'm gonna start to try and onboard people to this narrative in my next few years. But anyways, um, entrepreneurship is hard. Entrepreneurship means if you work 10 hours, you will work 20. If you take one day off, you will take none off. So my advice to anyone starting out, step one, look inside and think hard and find what you truly enjoy. Meaning, if you love to draw, then you know what, try and find a business with art. If you like to communicate with people, then it is communication, PR, marketing, advertising, any of the above, and etc. So find out what you enjoy in life and work within that joy, because that's the only way you will really advance and grow. Number two, be an employee and be a damn good employee. Work hard, set benchmarks, show people that you're the best, because you know what? When you are the best, that means you know the job inside out. And that's the only time when you will be ready to run your own business. Be a team player. Don't be intimidated by others. On the contrary, others compliment you, and listen, 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 listen all the time. Something you hear today will come back and ring a bell 5 years from now and might add value. So listen a lot and try and be a why not culture, not a no culture. And having said that, going back to the point of find out what you love, I told you earlier about how I used to subscribe to magazines, still do really, and follow the news. Um, I mentioned how the day one advertising, I saw the Clio Awards. And that stayed with me, Megan. I always wondered what this was. And that was right now we have a lot of great directors, great producers, great as an advertising scene and as a marketing scene, we are more active outside Egypt and we have been for the last 8 or 10 years. But before that, I was this VHS for me was like the door to a magical world. And I was like, what is this? And then I decided one day I'm gonna go there. Fast forward, that was 2000. Fast forward in 2018, 18 years later, or 17 years later, 2017 maybe, I became the office for Can Lines in Egypt. And it's not something I ever thought I had the ability as well of acquiring or becoming a member of. But after we signed the agreement and after we became the Egypt office, I was sitting with my business partner once and I looked at her, I was like, you know what? And she said, what? I was like, I've always wanted to be part of some awards. And right now we represent the best awards out there. Yay. And she started laughing. and and so it's all about really wanting something and working hard for it, and you will manifest it. It will come to life one way or another. It's not Cleo's, and Cleo's are great. It became Can Lines, which is amazing, you know?
Yes, yes, I love all of that. I was on mute, so we didn't get feedback, but I was literally clapping for like half of that. I was like,
Oh,
yes, yes, yes.
thank you.
Yeah. So we're going to go into our final question now, which is the same question I ask all of our history makers, which I start out by saying, if you're the first, you always want to make sure you're not the last, and we all stand on the shoulders of others who've made history before us. So I ask all of our history makers, who is a history maker who inspired you?
That is such a tough question. Oh my God. Because honestly, I'm not inspired by one person. I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to be very blunt here. I'm inspired. I'm usually inspired by people in different ways. For example, I'll be in a shop and someone is doing their job in a certain way. I'll just zone out and watch them and be inspired by that tiny bit of craft they're doing in their job. So I try and find inspiration every single day in every person I see. But if I am to name names, I'm inspired by more than one person. I'm inspired by my mom. She raised 5 kids and she worked while doing that. And I don't think I can do that. I don't think I can have a house, a family, and a job. I'm inspired by my business partner, who I would not be here today without. She is a force of nature. And I think we complete each other because she does everything that I fail to do, and I do everything that she fails to do. So I think on every given day, we inspire each other. And I'm inspired with my team, how much they love what they do and they want to make it better. But if you need like one big name that has made history, I can also tell you. But honestly, this is my answer, but I'm happy to give you like one big name.
No, that answer is totally fine. I've had a lot of people say, people make history in a million different ways. I mean, you're welcome to give me the one big name if you want to give me one big name, but like, I've had plenty of people, give me multiple names as well.
The one big name would be, there's this lady in Egypt. Her name is Dr. Maya Morsi. This woman is basically, she is the head of the National Council for Women in Egypt. And she inspires me because she's a woman for all the women in Egypt. I tell you, we met her in an event and it was a hello, hello. And after that, the amount of support we've been getting, she would call us up and be like, I have a great opportunity for you, this and that. And she doesn't just do this with us, she does this with every single woman out there. So I love her. She had an unfortunate situation a few years ago. She lost her son right before an event we were doing together. And it was a massive event. It was the Women Economic Forum, and we were hosting 850 women from 75 countries. And so Dr. Maya Morsi is a woman that I look up to every single day. She opens the door for women and tries to make them number one in any possible way. And we're lucky to have her, honestly.
Well, that is beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm so glad we finally got to meet and we finally got to talk. I'm looking forward to sharing this with our listeners.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for doing this. And I can't wait to hear it. I hope people like it. And I'd love to stay in touch.
Yes, absolutely will do. Well, thank you so much.
And you have a friend in Egypt if you ever come.
Oh, yes, I do. See, I love having international friends. Ellevate Network drives real results for ambitious women trying to break through the glass ceiling and achieve success in their careers. We offer a platform full of resources and opportunities for growth, all designed to help you unlock your potential. With Ellevate support, you can take the first step toward achieving your professional goals. With a supportive community and tangible resources at your fingertips, you're only one step away from reaching your fullest potential. Join us today and take advantage of our 30-day free trial to start building the career of your dreams. Thanks so much for listening to the Ellevate podcast. If you like what you hear, you can subscribe, give us 5 stars, and share your review. You can learn all about Ellevate membership and all the great things that Ellevate Network is doing at our website, www.ellevatenetwork.com. That's ELLEVATE network.com. And special thanks to our producer, Catherine Heller. She rocks. Thanks so much, and join us next week.